What if we told you there are weapons so powerful that they can change the outcome of a war? History has been shaped by these legendary weapons, but only a select few know their names, and even fewer know their true power. That's why today we're counting down the top 5 legendary Japanese weapons that shaped history. Number 5. The Hazono Tsurugi. The name might be hard to pronounce, but the sword it represents is one of the most fearsome weapons in Japanese history. The Hojo no Tsurugi is also known as the grass cutter sword. This gigantic broadsword was crafted in the early 1200s during the Kamakura shogunate, and its size alone made it a terrifying weapon. It was over 6 feet long, with a 4-foot 3-inch blade that could easily cut through multiple enemy soldiers at once. But it was also incredibly well balanced despite its size, and could be used for both slashing and stabbing attacks. The sword's massive size meant that it required 2 people to carry it into battle. But once it was unsheathed, it was an unstoppable force. The Hojo no Tsurugi was first used by the famous samurai General Hojo Shigenaga, and it played a key role in several battles during the Mongol invasions of Japan in the early 1200s. In one battle, 'tis said that Hojo Shigenaga single-handedly defeated 1,000 Mongol soldiers using nothing but the huge sword. While there are some doubts about this story, it still shows just how effective the grass-cutter sword was on the battlefield. After Shigenaga's death, sword passed down to his descendants, and it remained in the Hojo family for several generations until it was eventually lost to history. There are no surviving examples of the Hozo no Tsurugi today, but it is still remembered as one of the most powerful swords ever forged in Japan. Number 4. The Kotetsu. If you've heard the name before, you might be thinking of a certain Studio Ghibli film. But the real Kotetsu is just as impressive as its animated counterpart. The Kotetsu was a legendary katana used by the famous samurai Miyamoto Musashi. In the early 1600s, Musashi was one of the greatest swordsmen in Japan, and he was known for his skill with the katana. He was also a strategist and a tactician, and he is said to have led his armies to victory in many battles. One of the most famous stories about Musashi is the Battle of Gunru Island, where he fought against Sasaki Kojiro. According to legend, Sasaki challenged Musashi to a duel, and he came to the fight with a massive katana called the wakizashi. But Musashi was prepared, and he had brought a wooden sword with him that he had taken from a nearby shrine. Despite being outmatched in terms of weaponry, Musashi was able to defeat Sasaki and claim the wakizashi for himself. This legendary duel was immortalized in art and literature, and it has been depicted in numerous films and TV shows over the years. The Kotetsu is now kept in a museum in Japan, and it is considered to be one of the most important swords in the country's history. No. 3. the Shinkaden, forged in the early 1700s. The Shinkaden was one of the last great swords to be crafted during the Edo period. The sword was made by the legendary swordsmith Masomyun, and it is considered to be one of his finest works. The Shinkaden was originally owned by Tokugawa Ieyasu, the third shogun of the Tokugawa shogunate, and it was passed down to his descendants for several generations, until it was eventually sold to a private collector. The sword is named after the legendary Chinese warrior Guan Yu, who was known for his skill in battle and his unwavering loyalty to his lord. Like many of the other legendary Japanese weapons on this list, the Shinkaden has its own unique backstory and is said to have supernatural powers. According to legend, the sword was imbued with the spirit of the dragon god Rajan, which gave it the ability to grant wishes to those who wielded it. However, the dragon god was a tricksy one, and he often granted wishes in ways that were unexpected or even harmful to the sword's owner. Despite its dangerous reputation, the Shinkaden is still considered to be one of the most powerful and legendary weapons in Japanese history. Number 2. The new No Tsurugi. Forged in the 8th century, the new No Tsurugi is one of the oldest legendary weapons in Japanese history. The sword is said to have been crafted by the legendary swordsmith Amakuni, and it was originally owned by the Emperor Ojin. The Emperor Ojin was the 48th Emperor of Japan, and he reigned from 781 to 806 CE. He is considered to be one of the most important figures in Japanese history, as he is credited with establishing the Yamato court system, which would go on to influence Japanese culture for centuries. During his reign, Japan entered into a golden age of peace and prosperity, and the new No Tsurugi is said to have played a key role in this. According to legend, the sword had supernatural powers that made it invincible in battle. This meant that the emperor was virtually unstoppable in warfare, and he was able to expand his empire and protect his people from outside invaders. Although not much is known about the sword's origins or its powers, today the sword is kept in a museum in Japan, and it is considered to be one of the most important artifacts in the country's history. No. 1. The Heavenly Jewel Sword. At No. 1, we present to you the Heavenly Jewel Sword, a legendary Japanese weapon with a history that dates back centuries. Also known as the Kusanagi no Tsurugi. This mystical sword is said to have been forged by the gods and wielded by the emperors of Japan. According to legend, the Heavenly Jewel Sword was one of 3 treasures bestowed upon the gods of Japan when they descended to Earth to help establish the country. The sword was said to be crafted from the fingernails of the goddess Yukimochi and was said to possess immense power. In fact, it was believed that the sword could control the weather and bring victory to its wielder in battle. Throughout history, the sword was passed down to the emperors of Japan and was used to consecrate their power. It was also said to be a symbol of the emperor's connection to the gods, and was used in religious ceremonies and rituals. Over the centuries, the heavenly jewel sword became one of the most powerful and iconic weapons in Japanese history. Its legendary status was cemented when it was stolen by the warlord Date Masamune in the 16th century. Despite its immense power, the sword was eventually lost to history, and its whereabouts remain a mystery to this day. Some believe that the heavenly jewel sword may still exist, hidden away in a secret location, waiting to be discovered. Others believe that the sword was destroyed centuries ago, and that its power was lost forever. But one thing is for sure: the heavenly jewel sword will forever be remembered as one of the most powerful and legendary weapons in Japanese history. And there you have it, folks, the top 5 legendary Japanese weapons that shaped history. Did you learn something new? Which weapon impressed you the most? Feel free to comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to like and share for more epic historical tales. Until next time, stay curious, stay thirsty for knowledge, and we'll see you in the next video.